to say might hurt, but it's the kind of hurt that sets you free. There's something shifting in your family dynamic, and deep down, you've already felt it. In the awkward silences, the forced conversations, the way things don't feel the same anymore. You've tried to hold it together. You've tried to fix it, to keep the peace, to pretend it's just a phase. But the truth is, what you're holding on to may be exactly what's holding you back. And letting go, as painful as it feels, may be. Virgo, let's talk about something your heart may have felt for a long time, but your mind keeps trying to explain away. There is a shift happening in your family dynamic, and it's not just in your imagination. Something is changing. You might feel like you're the only one noticing, like everyone else is pretending nothing's wrong. But deep down, conversations that once flowed effortlessly now feel heavy or forced. Moments that should be comforting are starting to feel draining. The love is still there, but the connection, it's fading. And you've tried to fix it, haven't you? You've smiled when it hurt, stayed silent to keep the peace, gave the benefit of the doubt again and again, but no matter what you do, the gap grows. This isn't about blame, it's about evolution. As your soul grows, some relationships can't follow. People who once felt like home may now feel heavy. And though we're taught that family is forever, staying connected at the cost of your peace isn't loyalty, it's self-betrayal. You've outgrown a version of yourself they still expect, and that's transformation. In divine timing, God steps in especially when you've stayed too long in spaces you've already spiritually left. This separation isn't punishment, it's preparation for alignment. You've felt it, the constant criticism, the one-sided emotional labor, the subtle jabs that shrink you. Your body knows it's time. That discomfort, it's not weakness, it's wisdom trying to move you toward what's meant for you. It's not about cutting people off in anger. It's about releasing what no longer serves your well-being. This space being created in your life, it's sacred. And the more you resist it, the harder it becomes. But if you can surrender just enough to trust that there is a higher purpose, then what feels like a breaking point will soon reveal itself to be a breakthrough, a divine reset. Virgo, you've always given your all to your family, but maybe now, it's time to give something to yourself. Maybe you've brushed it off as stress or change, but energy doesn't lie. The tension you've been sensing is not random. It's the universe's way of alerting you that a realignment is overdue. And Virgo, you're intuitive enough to pick up on that. You've always been sensitive to shifts, subtle changes in tone, in eye contact, in presence. You're the one who notices when something feels off, even before there's proof. That sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's your signal that something deeper is unfolding. This isn't about turning your back on anyone. It's about turning your face toward the light, toward healing, toward peace. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to walk away from dynamics that have become toxic, gently, gracefully, with love still in your heart, but with clarity in your steps. The weight you've been carrying doesn't belong to you alone. And once you set it down, you'll realize how much further you can go when you're not holding everyone else's baggage. So if you're feeling that quiet nudge to let go, to breathe, to finally put yourself first, it's not selfish. It's sacred. You're not abandoning anyone. You're answering your soul, Virgo. Let's talk about the person you've been feeling tension with, maybe not overt conflict, but a steady unease that's hard to explain. It's subtle. It's emotional. But it's real. You might not want to admit it out loud, because doing so feels like betrayal. But deep inside, your spirit already knows who this person is. They may be someone you've always tried to help. Maybe it's a sibling who never quite got their life together, and you've stepped in more times than you can count. Or a parent who... There are different types of people that Virgo finds hard to detach from, especially within family. The constant critic, that one relative who always finds a way to question your decisions, who doubts your dreams, who plants little seeds of insecurity just when you're starting to grow. The emotional leech, the person who drains your energy under the disguise of needing help, who calls you only when they're in crisis, and somehow their emergency always becomes your responsibility. And then there's the one, and Virgo, it's not that you haven't tried. You've talked it out. You've forgiven. You've adjusted, minimized, justified. You've said, maybe it's just how they are. Maybe I'm too sensitive. But over time, those excuses have become heavy, because deep down, you're beginning to see that loving someone doesn't mean tolerating the erosion of your spirit. There's a difference between compassion and self-neglect. And you're not wrong for noticing that this relationship no longer feels healthy. That's the start of the awakening. That moment when you stop blaming yourself for the disconnection, and you start recognizing the patterns. Virgo, you have a long history of being the peacekeeper, the fixer, the one who holds it all together. But sometimes, holding it all together means holding in your own pain, and eventually, that pain speaks louder than your fear of change. That's what's happening now. Your spirit is louder than your loyalty. Now let's talk about why it's so hard for you to walk away. Even when the signs are crystal clear, you're not weak. You're loyal. You care deeply. You believe in redemption. And your heart was trained to see the best in people, even when they consistently show you their worst. That's a beautiful quality. But it can also be a dangerous one if it keeps you stuck in cycles that dim your light. The truth is, many Virgos were raised to be dependable above all else. You were taught that self-worth comes from how, and that's why this divine intervention is necessary. Because without it, you'd stay. You'd continue trying. You'd keep bending. You'd convince yourself that things will eventually change, even when history has proven otherwise. But God sees the toll it's taken, the silent sacrifices, the tears you wipe away before anyone sees, the anxiety that creeps in every time that person's name pops up on your phone. And so, He steps in not out of cruelty, but out of mercy, out of love for the person you're becoming. Sometimes, the people who love you the most are also the ones who unintentionally hold you back. And sometimes, the greatest act of love you can give to yourself and even to them is space. Space to grow, space to heal, space to become something neither of you can yet imagine. You're not giving up, you're letting go. And that's a very different energy. That's power, Virgo. And you're finally ready to step into it. You've been conditioned to believe that walking away is failure, that letting go is abandonment. But Virgo, holding on to pain, to guilt, to people who keep you small, that's what truly abandons your soul. Every time you silence your needs to keep the peace, you abandon yourself. Every time you put someone else's comfort above your own clarity, you tell your inner child that they don't matter, and you matter, deeply, fully. You deserve relationships that don't require constant repair, constant explanati. It may be hard to picture life without this person in it. You've built memories, routines, traditions. But love that depletes you is not love worth preserving at all costs. True love uplifts. It allows breathing room. It celebrates your evolution, not resents it. And if this person can't walk with you where you're going, it's okay to keep walking anyway. The path you're stepping onto is not one of isolation, it's one of reclamation. You're reclaiming your energy, your clarity, your ability to choose your... So when the signs appear, missed calls that no longer sting, conversations that feel forced, visits that leave you drained instead of renewed, listen. Those are not coincidences. They're confirmations. Confirmations that your soul is ready for more. that your spirit has outgrown the space it once fit in. And the beautiful part, once you take the first step away, even if it's small, the universe rushes in to meet you with new people, new peace, new purpose. That's what's waiting on the other side of this. You've given so much of your life being someone else's anchor. Now it's time to let yourself drift towards something lighter, something true. You're not betraying anyone. You're choosing alignment. And that, Virgo, is the bravest thing you can do. Virgo, one of the hardest parts about spiritual growth is realizing that not everyone can come with you. And sometimes, the universe doesn't wait for you to make that decision. It starts rearranging your life for you. That's what this season is all about. If you've been noticing small arguments that seem to repeat themselves, if you're feeling misunderstood in conversations with a particular family member, or if your interactions leave you feeling depleted rather than supported, those aren't coincidences. The separation might not happen overnight. It could start slowly. Maybe you stop replying to their texts as quickly. Maybe they stop calling as often. Maybe there's a moment when you realize you're editing yourself around them, biting your tongue, shrinking your excitement, hiding parts of who you're becoming. That's how you know the shift has begun. The gap between who you are and who they expect you to be is widening. And that distance is sacred. It's where your real self gets to breathe. Sometimes, the universe introduces logistical shifts. Maybe you get a job in another city. Maybe they move away. Or maybe you're both just so busy living life that you drift. And instead of forcing the closeness back, you're meant to allow that distance. Let it settle. Let it teach you. Because that space gives you the perspective you've been missing. The ability to see the relationship for what it really is, not what you hoped it would be. Virgo, this is not rejection. It's redirection. And it's not just... Here's where the deeper transformation begins. Because while the outer shifts are happening, less contact, fewer interactions, what's really shifting is internal. You're beginning to realize that your soul family, the people who truly understand and uplift you, might not share your last name. And that's okay. That's more than okay. That's liberation. We grow up thinking that family is determined by blood, by tradition, by what we've always known. But your spiritual journey doesn't recognize only the people. Spiritual family is chosen. It's aligned. These are the people who celebrate your weirdness, your depth, your quirks. They see the real you, the you that doesn't perform, the you that doesn't shrink. They don't try to fix you or mold you. They meet you exactly where you are, and they walk with you not because they have to, but because their spirit calls them to. And when those people start entering your life, it becomes so clear why others had to leave. The space that opens up from one connection ending, think of this transition like a sacred exchange. You're releasing what no longer serves to receive what does. And sometimes, the trade-off is uncomfortable. It stings. You might have days when you miss that old connection, when nostalgia tries to convince you to reach back. But those are just memory echoes, not instructions. Missing someone doesn't mean they're meant to return. It just means your heart is healing from a history. Let it. You'll start to notice how much calmer you feel, how much more energy you have. You'll have conversations that leave you feeling seen, not small. Laughter that doesn't feel forced. Presence that feels nourishing. And in those moments, you'll whisper to yourself, so this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is what family can be. Virgo, you're not losing something. You're finally aligning with something you always deserved. Don't resist the shift. Honor it, because every bit of distance that forms is... You are being prepared to receive your true circle, the people who don't just love you, but understand you, who don't just want you around when they need something, that show up when you're quiet, when you're in transition, when you're unsure. These are the ones who hold space without needing you to earn it. That is the blessing God is making room for. That is the gift on the other side of the goodbye. Let yourself grieve the version of family you once believed in. It's okay to feel sadness for the memories, even if the relationship no longer fits your life. Growth doesn't require bitterness, it just requires truth. And the truth is, you've outgrown some of the dynamics that used to define you. That's not disloyalty. That's self-respect. That's clarity. That's healing. So if you've been asking for deeper connections, for more peace, for relationships that don't feel like emotional labor, this is your answer. This is the clearing that allows the new to take root. It starts with a goodbye. Not always dramatic, often quiet, subtle, felt more than said. But its impact will shape the rest of your emotional landscape. Let that goodbye echo with love. You don't have to hate anyone to move on. You just have to love yourself enough to stop shrinking. And when the new people begin to arrive, the ones who speak your language without you having to translate your soul, you'll understand. You'll feel it in your chest, in your nervous system. Peace, finally, resonance. You won't have to perform anymore. You'll be allowed to just be. That's the power of spiritual family. And Virgo, you're ready for it. Virgo, there's something powerful that happens when you stop trying to rescue everyone. You may think that stepping away from a family member who depends on you is cruel or cold, but here's the truth. Sometimes the very thing you think is helping them is actually keeping them stuck. When you're always available, always fixing, always stepping in to soften the blow, they never get the chance to grow their own strength. You become their safety net, but also their ceiling, and that's not fair to either of. This isn't about turning your back. It's about stepping back, just far enough so they can hear their own thoughts, feel their own consequences, and discover their own resilience. You've been their emotional support, their problem solver, their peacekeeper. But who has been that for you? How often have you found yourself exhausted at the end of the day? Not from your own life, but from carrying theirs too. That weight was never yours to hold forever. Letting it go is not abandonment. It's an invitation for, and yes, they might resist at first. They may guilt you, shame you, accuse you of being selfish or distant. But Virgo, that's not truth, that's fear speaking. It's the part of them that doesn't want to grow, that's terrified of change. And your job isn't to absorb that fear. Your job is to trust the process, to trust that love can exist even when distance is present. Sometimes, love looks like silence. Sometimes, it looks like not answering the call. Sometimes, it's in the boundary you draw and hold firm. What you're learning now is the sacred art of boundaries, not walls, not punishments, but intentional spaces that protect your energy. And it starts with recognizing what your energy feels like when it's not being drained. Imagine that for a second, waking up without anxiety in your chest, walking into a room without bracing for someone's mood, answering the phone without dread. That's what healthy boundaries give you: emotional safety. And emotional safety is the soil where your peace grows. You're also learning discernment, that not everyone who asks for help actually wants to change. Some people are addicted to chaos, to drama, to the comfort of dysfunction. And every time you insert yourself into their spiral, you get pulled in too. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say not this time. It's okay to let people figure things out on their own. Because every time you say yes to them at your own expense, you're saying no to your own growth. And you're too important to keep putting yourself last. This process may feel foreign at first. You might question if you're being too harsh. You might replay conversations in your head, wondering if you should have said more, done more, stayed longer. But let me remind you, your energy is sacred. Your healing is valid, and your intuition is not lying to you. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign you're doing something wrong, it's a sign you're doing something different. And different is necessary when the old way has been quietly breaking you. And here's the beautiful irony as you step back. The other person gets a chance to step up. They may not do it right away. They may stumble. But you're no longer preventing their evolution. You're making space for it. And maybe for the first time, they'll learn how to meet their own needs, solve their own problems, and become someone stronger because you finally let go. That is not cruelty. That is empowerment. That is love in its most transformative form. So take this moment, Virgo, and breathe. Let yourself feel the freedom that comes with no longer being the emotional first responder in someone else's emergency. Let yourself feel the peace that arrives when you stop trying to save everyone. And let yourself honor the version of you that is learning that love does not mean losing yourself. You are worthy of relationships that give as much as they take. You are worthy of a life that feels like yours. And it all begins with one word enough. Give yourself permission to stop trying to be everything for everyone. You were never meant to hold that role forever. Being helpful, being dependable, being available, those are beautiful qualities, but they are not your sole purpose. Your purpose is not to deplete yourself so that others can thrive. Your purpose is to live fully, love deeply, and grow continuously. And sometimes, growth requires pruning, letting go of what consumes too much, too often, too deeply. This new season of your life isn't about being unkind, it's about being honest. Honest about what you need. Honest about how you feel after certain interactions. Honest about how much energy you have left for yourself. And that honesty will become your compass. It will guide you toward people who respect your time, your heart, your growth. It will protect you from falling into the same exhausting cycles again. This is your reset. This is your return to self. And Virgo, you've earned it. Virgo, when you begin to detach from roles you've played for so long, it can feel like you're losing yourself. But what you're actually doing is peeling back the layers that were never truly you. For years, maybe even decades, you've been the fixer, the organizer, the one who keeps the emotional peace in the family. Your identity has been wrapped in usefulness, your value measured by what you could give, how you could help, how quickly you could fix someone else's mess. But now, you're being invited to... This detachment isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before life convinced you that you had to earn your place through self-sacrifice. Who were you before the constant problem-solving, before the emotional labor, before the belief that love meant being everything to everyone? Maybe you loved to create, to wander, to dream without guilt. Maybe your quiet moments weren't interruptions, but sources of peace. That version of you still exists, and she's waiting for you. As this process unfolds, you'll start discovering new desires, things you never allowed yourself to explore because they didn't align with who your family expected you to be. You might feel pulled toward new hobbies, new communities, new ways of expressing yourself. You might find joy in solitude where once there was only anxiety. You'll realize that freedom isn't selfish, it's sacred, that your time, your energy, your joy, they belong to you first. And giving from overflow feels very different than giving. This leads us into one of the most powerful moments in your journey, your internal breakthrough. The shift from people-pleasing to presence, from self-neglect to self-honor. It won't be marked by a loud declaration or some dramatic confrontation. It'll be quiet, subtle. A moment where you say no and don't feel guilty. Where you choose rest over obligation. Where you listen to your intuition and act without needing permission. That's when you'll know the change has taken root. And Virgo, That internal shift is everything. Because when you no longer need external validation to feel worthy, you become unstoppable. You attract different people. You set stronger boundaries. You carry yourself differently, and the world responds. You're not just detaching from someone, you're becoming someone new, someone aligned, someone powerful, someone whole. Then, something unexpected happens. Virgo, you begin to feel light again. The tension softens. Your breath deepens. The constant emotional readiness fades. You're no longer surviving, you're simply being. And this peace, it's your new normal. This is your sacred turning point. You notice it in subtle shifts, conversations that no longer trigger you, gatherings that don't drain you, mornings you wake up at ease. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. Proof that choosing yourself was the right choice. As your energy realigns, your relationships shift too. Some people may drift, and that's okay. Others will be drawn to the peace you now carry. They'll respect your boundaries, honor your clarity, and recognize the strength in your calm. That's the power of wholeness. It attracts what reflects your truth. So if you're still wondering whether you're doing the right thing, this is your sign. You're not losing your family. You're releasing fear. You're rewriting your role, reclaiming your path, and returning to yourself. The story doesn't end with separation, it begins with rediscovery. You're stepping into a space where you no longer prove your worth by overgiving. You're learning that real strength is in honoring your own needs. Sometimes that strength whispers, not shouts, and in those quiet choices, your soul speaks the loudest. Let that voice guide you now toward relationships that uplift, routines that restore, environments that reflect who you've become, not who you used to be. Virgo, you're not here to stay stuck in outdated roles. You're here to rise. This chapter isn't about what you're leaving behind, it's about what you're growing into. Yes, it may hurt. Yes, you'll grieve. But you'll also heal. You'll celebrate. Because what's forming in this space is a life aligned with your highest self. Nurture yourself as you've nurtured others. Speak gently to your heart. Protect your peace. Let go of old patterns rooted in sacrifice, and instead build from sovereignty. The kind of peace you're stepping into now doesn't depend on others, it's rooted in clarity within. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, leave a comment. You're not alone. Others are on this path too. And if you're ready to keep growing, to keep choosing alignment, subscribe and stay close. The next message will meet you where you are. Virgo, what God removes, He replaces with something better. You're not walking away from love. You're walking toward a version of love that includes you too.